Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Today is actually Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. If you're a mother, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there, including my mother who's in the chat. Today we're going to be drawing a shark. It's a random object. It's a hammerhead shark. I have about 400 of these little toys in the Random Object Randomogrifier, and I pulled out a shark last night. We seem to be on a seaside theme. I'm not sure if we have a good mix or not. We're gonna have to I'm gonna have to examine the mix, figure out how to make the mix a little better. But I don't mind drawing sharks and mermaids and pirates. Matter of fact, I enjoy it, especially sharks. I really enjoy drawing sharks. I've got a couple of kids that are just as into sharks as they are dinosaurs. And this, I think, is going to go very quickly. It's just like drawing a worm, where you wake up and it's like, okay, here's your worm, here's your long skinny tube, and you're done. Because it's so sleek, there's not a whole lot of details. But there are some fun things to play with, like that dorsal fin. The interesting thing about that dorsal fin is that it is parallel to my eyes. Is that right? Parallel to perpendicular to my eyes. It's perpendicular to my eyes, which means I have to put in a special effort to make sure that it reads as a dorsal fin and not as a stick coming off the back of the body. Because it's funny how that works. Was reading up on sharks yesterday. I watched a documentary about sharks yesterday because, you know, I pulled the hammerhead out of the randomogrifier. Went down the rabbit hole. Yeah, my mom's laughing. This one should have been pulled on a weekday. This is something you want on a Monday when you know it's not going to take you very long to do it. But that defeats the purpose of the randomogrifier, I guess. The whole purpose is for it to be, I don't know, random. Can't talk. Already So anyway, I went down the rabbit hole last night on the sharks. Went through, watched a whole. We subscribed to a service called Great Courses, which is fascinating to me. It is, as the name would suggest, Great Courses. It is a bunch of college courses. They take lecturers from around the world, and they take their college level courses and put them in a production studio, give them their full PowerPoint and everything, put them in a production studio, and have them give their lecture, and you get to watch it. So basically, whatever you want to learn about, they have art lessons on there, they have music lessons on there, they have history lessons on there, mathematics, physics. Now, specific information, like if I just wanted something about hammerhead sharks, that wasn't really there. But there was a course on sharks, and hammerheads were included in the course on sharks, just not a course specifically about hammerhead sharks. That's more like it. Just not specifically a course about hammerhead sharks, but a course about sharks in general. So it's pretty cool. Great courses. Great courses. If you're looking, if you're watching this, and I'm looking for sponsors, call me. We subscribe to that. We subscribe to Curiosity Stream. Curiosity Stream is nothing but documentaries. They have all the documentaries from the 80s and 90s that we used to watch on PBS. You know what, there's a fin back here that I'm only aware of because it has a dark shadow, a dark edge in front of that tail fin. This is like drawing a butterfly, though. When you draw a butterfly, if you draw a butterfly this way, all you see is a stick. So you always have to angle the butterfly one way or the other so that you can read it as a butterfly. This dorsal fin is exactly like that. If you don't add just a little bit of artistic license to it, it won't read as a dorsal fin. It'll read as a stick. So you have to make sure that you angle it just a touch. so that it reads right. Excuse me, goodness gracious. One of the nice things about Houston is there's always some kind of pollen or mold to make sure that you've got a good cough going on. So he starts his documentary off last night with the story of the USS Indiana and how the ship went down. All the men were left in the water and they were killed and attacked by sharks. And how that kind of set the mindset for how people around the world view sharks. I mean, they already had a pretty healthy fear of them, but this didn't help at all. But he pointed out that most of the men didn't die from shark attack. Most of the men died from exposure and dehydration. But it was attributed to shark attack, and the sharks got a bad rep out of it. And he made the point that I like to make all the time. Most of the time when sharks bite into people, they immediately let go because people don't taste like shark food. Most of the time. It doesn't mean there aren't people out there that have been eaten by sharks or attacked by sharks that I'm saying isn't a big deal. But I'm saying that for the most part, you're more likely to get killed by a cow than a shark. So sharks get a bad rap, especially after the book Jaws came out. Sharks get a bad rap. Oh, thank you. My mother's reminding me that the electric sensors. So sharks have, fish in general have different kinds of sensors than people have. They have different sensors. They hear differently. Instead of just having an ear, they have a nerve that runs the length of their body with little attachments on it that allows them to sense movement and vibration in the water. But sharks have ampullae of Lorenzini's, which are special electric sensors in the snout that sense the electric impulses, the electromagnetic field impulses produced by an organism moving a muscle. So when you move your muscle, your brain sends out an electric impulse, and the electric impulse, excuse me, I need one of those cough buttons so that you guys don't have to listen to that. Those electric impulses are sent out by the brain, and they go down the muscle, and the muscle then translates that into movement Sharks not only sense the movement, they sense the electric impulse in advance. And why is that relevant? Why is that important? Blade, why are you bringing that up now? Well, I'm glad you asked. Hammerhead sharks have this extra wide head because in the area that they live in, there's a lot of food, but the food is very wide out. It's shallow water, and the food is very, very spread out. And so they have this extra wide head, and the ampullae of Lorenzini are spread along the whole head. That way they can tell better if something over here is over here. They can sense it more. The sensory is way over here. They know to go that way. It's kind of like having ears on the side of your head. It's like that is why I wanted to be reminded of that. I wanted to point out that that was the reason hammerheads have that particular feature. That other sharks have all of the sharks have the ampullae of Lorenzini, but the hammerheads have them along that whole wide, broad snout of theirs. Which I think is pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. When I went back to research it, the researchers say that all vertebrate animals are descendant from organisms that had this sensory, and that most of them lost it, but the chordates, we're all chordates. We have the spinal cord, is what makes us a chordate. What do you call the ones that have the cartilaginous skeleton? Sharks never lost it. The organisms that evolved into sharks never lost that ability. And some organisms, like catfish, redeveloped it differently. And the first time I learned that, it changed my opinion of ESP. Hey, Ivy. Pop in and said Happy Mother's Day to the moms and the Manning family. Hope you have a beautiful day, and that the Mr. spoil you. Thank you, Ivy. But the sensory organs, the ampullae of Lorenzini that sharks have, changed my opinion of ESP. Because I never used to believe in ESP. Like most science people, I was always, if you can't see it, it's not happening. But if it makes sense to me, because then you start looking at how the brains work. The neurons fire electrons to start the function of moving a muscle, and they send out an electric impulse. And it is entirely possible that that impulse there's a gap between the neurons where they don't touch, and so that impulse has to fire across that gap. And it is entirely possible that sometimes that impulse misses, or not just misses, but hits it and then bounces off of the other thing into the ether, and that somebody else's receptors may pick it up. That is, I have to admit, entirely possible. Especially in close families where the receptors are very similar. It is, I have to admit, it is a possibility. I don't like to admit that it's a possibility. I don't like that at all. But I have to be willing to admit that it is a possibility. So yeah, learning about sharks and human neurons changed my perception about extrasensory perception. The shark fin, the shading on the shark fin is darker than the shadow. The only place the shadow is dark is right here. The rest of the place, the shark is darker than the shadow. Hi, Elizabeth. So is it Mother's Day in the Netherlands also? Do they do that? And is it today? Do we share the same holiday? She says, yes, today is Mother's Day. That's good. Don't you think that? I think that's good. Mothers deserve a day. Mothers deserve more than a day. Fathers deserve more than a day, but they deserve at least a day, I think. none of this is white. So we have to come back and make sure that the whole thing is shaded, because none of this is white. The only places that I can see white on the shark, there's a reflective part there, there's a reflective highlight right there, and there's a reflective highlight right there. So we may come back in with the nylon eraser and pull those back out. You have to remember, when you tone the shark, you have to also go back in and tone the shadow so that the shadow is also darker than the shark. My daughter, girl 2, is learning to drive. And for years now, whenever we drove someplace, I would mention why. That this is what we do and this is why we're doing it. Like right turn on red after a full stop, or if you look at the storefront mirrors, you can see the traffic around you, and you can use the storefront mirrors as a way to see what the traffic around you is doing. But we would talk about that kind of stuff while we were doing it. And I always thought we were doing it for them. I always thought we were doing it for the kids, so the kids could learn. But now I know it's not true. Now I know we're doing it to remind ourselves. When you tone the shark, you want to make sure and tone the whole shadow also, so that it blends well. So I find myself talking as I'm drawing. Even when I'm drawing by myself, I talk to myself as though I'm teaching myself how to draw. I'm just taking out highlights right now. I'm not taking out the. I'm not trying to take out the. I'm sorry. Highlights is not the right word. Reflective light. I'm trying to take back some of the reflective light. But when I want to go back in and do the highlights, I'm going to move to the kneaded eraser. Or not the kneaded eraser, the nylon eraser. Alright. My mom's asking if my daughter has driven my car. She has not driven my car since she got her permit. She got her permit the other day. She has not driven my car since she got her permit. She has driven my car before, but not since she got her permit. We got on the motorcycle yesterday. We rode down to the Arts Festival in Fort Bend. And sad to say, the Arts Festival was supposed to be last month, but there was some inclement weather, so they activated their postponed date, which made it yesterday instead of last month. And I think that because of the postponement, there wasn't as much going on as there normally would have been. So I think the fact that it was postponed because there were only about 15-20 booths that weren't food. But the best part about that is that it was not about the arts festival. It was about the bike ride down there, and we for sure got to do that. Stopped in at this nice little bar and grill, had a hamburger and a couple of drinks. Took the long way home. It was a nice day. Yeah, my mom's talking about Hammerhead sharks are her favorite. She's going to steal my drawing, and she loves her daddy-daughter motorcycle adventures. I have a granddaughter with the same affliction. My son also has a motorcycle, and my granddaughter, my oldest son, boy one, and his daughter also loves riding on daddy's motorcycle. The exact same affliction. I think we're going to sit here and overwork this if I'm not careful. This side over here should have more reflected light. Without the reflected light, I say this every day, but without the reflective light, it doesn't read as round. So I'm going to go back in. I'm going to pull back some of that. Some of that shading. Give it a little lighter value. That will also help separate it from the fin, the dorsal fin. That is trying so hard to engulf. Took a little too much there, but I can always add some back. The beauty of 4B, right? The beauty of 4B. You guys can't even see what I'm doing because my hand, you know, it's been something I've had to struggle with my whole life, is this affliction of having to use my right hand for everything. If I were a proper left-handed artist, I could draw and it wouldn't be such a distraction to have my hand in the way, because my hand wouldn't be in the way. But I think if I were a left-handed artist, I think the lights and everything would be on this side and my left hand would still be in the way. So I should be more like my wife, who is bidextral. She hates when I call it that. I think we're there. I think I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish with this. But we did go to the arts festival yesterday, and I think the thing about the arts festival, I think the whole the main thing about that was the trip. So just like everything else, it's about the process, right? It can't be about the end result, because if it's about the end result, something can always ruin the end result. But if it's about the process, nothing can take the process away from you. If you're painting, if you're drawing and painting because you love to draw and paint, then no matter how it turns out, yeah, you can want it to turn out better. You can be upset that it didn't look like what you had planned for it to look like in your mind. But you still got to draw and paint. We still got to take the trip. Ta-da! There's just no way to make it. For some reason lately, you know what, maybe it's this. What happens if I do that? Oh yeah, that's better. The screen was too bright. So there we go. Ivy says with her injured finger, it's absolutely maddening to try to do anything. She knew she was bidextral before the injury, and now it's like her left hand knows nothing. Right. My left hand is basically just a club that I use to hold things still with while I act upon it with my right hand. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It is always a pleasure. I look forward to this every day. Today was once again, today was Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to everybody. It's 5:30 Sunday morning, and it is now 6:10 Sunday morning. I don't have anywhere to go, but we're going to wrap this up anyway so that I don't just keep diving into the details and overwork and stuff. Thank you so much for joining me. Be sure and be here tomorrow, same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And we dance. And we dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because that is how we know the lag is caught up with the stream and I don't cut it off in the middle of